This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.
Holy Toledo, there's a new Zelda game in the works. Yeah, I know, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sold amazingly well, was by almost all accounts groundbreaking and excellent, and of course Nintendo would want to make another one, and hey, we're closing in on 2 years since the final piece of DLC for Breath of the Wild. It's not unreasonable to think that its sequel could be out in holiday 2020. However, it's Zelda, so even if it's holiday 2020, it's probably not actually hitting until like 2021. Maybe it'll be March 2021, 4 years after Breath of the Wild. I'd be fine with that. But anyway, we have under a minute and a half of footage, and we will probably produce hours of speculation off of just that footage. Zelda speculation is insane like that. We already have a deep dive with me, Neil Ronahan, and John Raridan going over frame by frame from the video. We're going to have all sorts of other theories and speculation. It's going to be wild. There's a lot in this trailer. But what I want to do is just focus on 5 things that I'm really stoked about potentially being in there, or just some things that we might have learned that are really, really cool and could make the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that is now in development let's get real. This is probably my most anticipated game that's coming out. Like, there are other games that look cool. You know, Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion, that's all fun. Final Fantasy VII Remake looks great. But move over every other video game. This is the new hotness that I want to obsess over. So let's go through, as we go through 5 items of things that I am really stoked about potentially being in Breath of the Wild, or, you know, things that we know for sure. Number 1, dungeons. One of the major things I felt was missing from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was the lack of memorable dungeons. Sure, Hyrule Castle was really cool, and the shrines were an excellent addition that kind of added a new thing to the series, but the sameness of the Divine Beasts made me long for the more expansive and interesting dungeons of other 3D Zelda games. The majority of this trailer takes place in what seems to be Hyrule Castle catacombs. That's to say that seems like a dungeon, boys and girls. I'll stick to the lone shot of an entrance as furthering my hope here. I think somewhat more traditional dungeons will make a return in the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Number 2, same old map, but with new twists. One of the multiple money shots of this short trailer is when it pans out to show Breath of the Wild Hyrule, with some changes. But anyway, Hyrule Castle is seemingly lifting off the ground after the events of whatever happened with the creepy corpse thing. We'll get to that a little later. It just makes sense for the Zelda team to reuse Hyrule's map. They put a lot of effort into that gorgeous locale. They could also mess with it to show the passage of time. Maybe snowy areas started melting. Climate change could be an issue in Hyrule. Floods decimated or reshaped other regions, maybe. New civilizations and towns sprouted up. Maybe we're in a Hyrule on the road to recovery post-Calamity Ganon. Maybe we'll finally see the world Link and Zelda are striving to bring back. Although, this is a little spoilery, so skip ahead 10 to 15 seconds, and really, if you don't know the true ending to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, why are you looking at speculation for its sequel? This looks like it's gonna be a direct follow-up, guys. But anyway, in Breath of the Wild's true ending, Zelda and Link are making their way to Zora's domain because the Divine Beast Vah Ruta stopped working. Seems like something that might change the map a bit, and maybe even segue into a sequel. They talk a lot about, this iteration of Ganon being done, but he could come back, right? Number 3, Ganondorf, the Prince of Darkness, the King of Thieves, the Great Thief, the King of Evil, the King of Darkness. Say what you will, Ganondorf's kind of a big deal, and we just saw Calamity Ganon as kind of a force of nature in Breath of the Wild. But what about the Gerudo version? It seems like the corpse we see come back to life is Ganondorf in some capacity, or at least a Gerudo. He resembles the Twilight Princess design, and there's a ton of Gerudo iconography throughout the entire trailer, especially around that zombie, that also happens to have long flowing locks, like some incarnations of Ganondorf, like most specifically in Hyrule Warriors. I could go on for a while about this weird Ganondorf corpse thing. We talk about it a lot in our other video, our deep dive into this Zelda trailer. There seems to be a lot of Twilight Princess stuff here, maybe even things tying to the light and shadow elements of that. But anyway, I think we have a dead Ganondorf on our hands. Number 4, Fujibayashi is back, baby. The director of the Breath of the Wild, as well as Skyward Sword, Minish Cap, and the Oracle games, is coming back for another go on the Zelda dev throne. Hidemaru Fujibayashi is awesome. It's good to see him still doing Zelda things. What does that mean for the sequel? Well, it means consistency and hopefully a Majora's Mask-like twist on a familiar formula. Much like the sequel to Breath of the Wild, Majora's Mask was semi-built off of the framework of Ocarina of Time. However, as series producer Eiji Aonuma told Game Informer, which is also the site who broke the news of Fujibayashi's return, check the link in the description for more details for the original source of that news. This sequel will be different, though, from Majora's Mask in a key way. Aonuma, during the development of Majora's Mask, described himself as being stubborn, as he aimed to make Majora's Mask from scratch. But he seemingly learned his lesson, and Breath of the Wild 2 will be built on the foundation of its predecessor. Number 5, Zelda playing an active role. There's a key thing to note about this trailer. It's not just Link. Zelda is present through all of the action as well. Now, I don't think this is building towards a co-op experience, but it could be. Regardless, I think Zelda will be, at a minimum, an active, non-past tense participant in the main game. This could be a story where you explore the world with two characters that maybe you switch between playing as, and they could have interactions throughout that could change based around the order you explore and do things. Or maybe like Zelda gets possessed by the creepy Ganondorf corpse and she's out of commission for like the whole story, but then like, I don't know, Link can find her diary pages to fill in the gaps. You know, that's probably more likely, but I hope Nintendo swerves and we get Link and Zelda fighting enemies, solving puzzles, and clearing dungeons together. Anyway, that's 5 things that I'm stoked about potentially seeing in Zelda, or facts that are happening, like having the same director as Breath of the Wild return for the sequel. I'm just really excited for this video game. We're probably not going to hear a lot about it for a long time, so I'm just going to cling to this 1.5-minute trailer very dearly and delicately. Check out the rest of our E3 coverage. We have deep dives into the Zelda trailer. We also have coverage of the Link's Awakening demo and footage that is out there at E3 being played right now. And we'll also have more than Zelda here, too. We'll have Animal Crossing and Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and Super Mario Maker and all that jazz. So thanks for watching. Bye.
This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.